That's me at the last click of Bloodlust. To understand how we ended up here, we gotta go to where it all began. There are many content creators and streamers for Geometry Dash. Some of my personal favorites being EVW, Aeon Air, Zoink, King Samalot, and Vortrox. More about Vortrox a little bit later. But the whole reason I even started playing this game in the first place was because of EVW and all of his videos for the Rob Top levels. Especially his video on about club step and his challenge for that, which I thought was really funny. And I just thought Geometry Dash was like really cool. So I ended up downloading Geometry Dash Meltdown. I ended up completing the game in about 20 minutes or so. But that's besides the point. If it wasn't for EVW, I wouldn't even be playing Geometry Dash in the first place. But Aeon Air has also inspired me partially because of his collabs with EVW over the years. There's a lot of people who just play Geometry Dash just to star grind, and then there's other people who play Geometry Dash just to grind Extreme Demons, which is the hardest difficulty of level that there is in the game. And Extreme Demons are my personal favorite kind of levels, but there's also different levels of difficulty within Extreme Demons. Like there's like low tier Extreme Demons, there's like mid tier Extreme Demons, and then there's the really high tier Extreme Demons that only a numbered amount of people can play and beat. And there's people like Zoink who like to torture themselves with those kind of Extreme Demons. And then there's other people like Vortrox, like EVW, who just play like the easier Extreme Demons. And I just think that grinding Extreme Demons is really cool, in my opinion. I think that they're fun, and I really enjoy playing Extreme Demons. When I said more about Vortrox a little bit later, well, it's that time now. Um, Vortrox is the most influential player to me. When it comes to playing Extreme Demons, especially his 100 Days of Extreme Demons challenge that he did a while ago, where he played a bunch of different extremes. And my favorite of all the levels all the extremes that he played during that time was Falling Up on day 43. And so when I got my first computer in May of 2025, that was the first level that I decided I wanted to beat. But I've been playing the game for a while. I was just on mobile before then. But switching to PC was a really big change for me. There wasn't as much input delay. There wasn't it wasn't laggy as much as it was on mobile. So I ended up playing Falling Up, and it took me a very long time to beat that level. It took me 4 months and 44,000 attempts to beat Falling Up as my first Extreme Demon. But when I beat it, it made me feel extremely accomplished because beating an Extreme Demon means that I'm up there with all of the other people that can beat an Extreme Demon in Geometry Dash, which there isn't. Well, there's a lot of them, but there's not a lot of them considering the player base of Geometry Dash. But my next extreme, which was a little bit harder than falling up, but not that much harder, was Awakening Horus. And I chose that because it's still like on the easier side of extreme demons, but it's harder than falling up. And that took me about a month and just over 20,000 attempts. And it shouldn't have even taken me that long because I was only able to play around 20 minutes per day. And so I had to end up like relearning the level several different times because I just wasn't able to play the game because I was heavily involved in sports at my school. But I beat that, and then I chose sweater weather as my next extreme because I was on a time limit before I had to go get surgery because I got injured a during a football game. And that level just tortured me. It on the all rated extreme demons list, it says it's one of the easiest extremes that there is, but that level feels so much harder than it actually is. And I don't know why it was, but it took me like a week and a half, and I was able to play the game a little bit more when I beat sweater weather, but I just kept dying to the same part at like 50% where the spider is, and it just made me mad at that level, and I really didn't want to beat it, but um it was the last level that I was going to be able to beat before I had to get surgery. And I it took me like 21,000 attempts to beat that. It took me more than Awakening Horus, but less than Falling Up. So I still think of it as a win, even though it took me more attempts than it took me to beat Awakening Horus. And after that, I wanted to push myself because even though I had like really high attempt counts on the past extreme demons that I did, aside from Falling Up, all of the levels were really easy to me. Like they weren't that hard, and they didn't take me all that long. So I wanted to push myself. So I ended up playing Astral Divinity after I had surgery, and I had a lot more time to play the game at that time because I couldn't do anything else besides just sit there and play Geometry Dash because I couldn't go outside or do anything. And it when I was playing Astral Divinity, it took me 2 weeks to beat it, but Astral Divinity really actually like pushed my skill in the game more than all the other extremes that I beat. And I I played Astral Divinity for about 8 hours almost every day for around 2 weeks. And it was a jump from Awakening Horus. And when I beat Astral Divinity, it was around number 450 on the all rated list. And Awakening Horus was around 1200. So it was a decently big jump, in my opinion. But it was like a struggle for me, but it wasn't impossible. And after I beat Astral Divinity, I played Allegiance because it was another video that not another video, another level that was in Vortrox's 100 Days challenge. And I thought it was really cool, and I also thought it was cool that SD Slayer one attempted it. And so I played that level. It was originally supposed to be a break from Black Blizzard because I was trying to beat Black Blizzard as a new hardest. But I ended up dropping Black Blizzard because I was having a really bad time with that level, mainly because of the pre-drop that every single person that ever beats Black Blizzard hates. But I played Allegiance for around an hour for 3 days, and I ended up beating it on the third day, and it took me around 9,000 attempts to beat it, which at the time was a new lowest attempt count for an extreme demon, which meant I was actually like improving at the game, which I thought was cool. And then the next extreme that I did after that was Auditory Breaker. The Auditory Breaker was easy and hard at the same time. The hardest part of the level for me was the ball at the very beginning, because you can't see. There's like a circle on your screen, and all the gameplay is within that circle. And I don't know why, it was just really hard at that point in time, and that took me a while to beat. But that was also the first level that I actually started getting nervous on. That was the first level where nerves started to affect me. And I died to 94 6 times just because I was getting nervous. And then I died to 93 another 4 times. But after I died to 93 the 4th time, I beat it the very next attempt. And that Auditory Breaker took me 18,000 attempts to beat it, and that was, I think, around 560 when I beat it, which showed me a couple things. That, one, I've gotten a little bit better at the game because it took me less than 20,000 attempts, which, besides Allegiance, was the first extreme that I beat in under 20k attempts. And it also showed me that I am decently good at the wave game mode, because it didn't take me long to learn Auditory Breaker at all. So it showed me that I was decently good at the wave. And then the next extreme that I beat was Bloodbath. I beat Bloodbath because if you're good enough to play Bloodbath, you just have to beat it. And it wasn't that hard. And everybody says that Michigan's part is the hardest part in Bloodbath, but I found it one of the easiest parts. And it was one of the most consistent parts too. And I died to Crack's part more times than I died to Michigan's part. And I thought it was weird because everybody always says that Michigan's part is the hardest part of Bloodbath, and I didn't find it that way. But that took me around 3 days to beat also, and it took me just over 5,000 attempts, which surprised me because that was a new lowest attempt count for an extreme demon, and it's harder than Allegiance, Falling Up, Sweater Weather, and Awakening Horus. And all of those took me a decent bit of attempts to beat. And with that showed me that I was really actually improving at the game. And so I wanted to beat a new hardest. So the next extreme that I beat was Sonic Wave, because Auditory Breaker is a remake of Sonic Wave, and they have pretty much the same gameplay except for a couple parts, which are either nerfed or buffed or whatever. And it's one of the levels in the RGB trilogy, which I really want to beat someday. And I also just really like the mashup that I have for Sonic Wave. So I beat Sonic Wave next, and it took me around 2 weeks to beat Sonic Wave. But on the very first day of me playing Sonic Wave, I got a run from the first wave. I don't know exactly what percent it is, but I got a run from the first wave all the way to 94%, which was really good progress for me, even though it's still the like same gameplay as Auditory Breaker. But it took me 2 weeks and only 9,000 attempts to beat Sonic Wave, which, even if you combine the attempts between Auditory Breaker and Sonic Wave, it's around 27,000 attempts, which is a little over half the attempts that it took me to beat Astral Divinity. So, beating two Extreme Demons in less attempts than it took me to beat one Extreme Demon, like 4 months prior, it's really cool to me, because it took me around half. And then after Sonic Wave, I wanted to beat something really easy before I go for another new hardest. And so I decided to play AQ, because everybody loves AQ. A lot of people play it as their first extreme, and I really liked the level. But I played it for around 3 hours, and then I just randomly fluked it from 56, and it took me 3,000 attempts, which is still my lowest attempt count to this day. And I really liked AQ. I thought it was really cool. But that I had to beat that level just so I can beat another new hardest, which brings us to when I first started playing Bloodlust. On day one, I was really struggling, and I was just trying to get 94 to 100. And I couldn't even do that after 4 hours of playing the level, which made me feel like Bloodlust was too hard. Like, too big of a jump for me, even though my previous hardest was Sonic Wave. But I couldn't get that run that day. So when I finally got off, I went and watched a bunch of completion videos for Bloodlust, just trying to figure out the click patterns. And I went to bed. And then the next day, I got on, and I was I was doing really good. Not only did I get the 94 to 100 run that I was trying to get really bad the previous day, I ended up getting 66 to 100, which made me feel really happy, because that's the entire extension in one run, which is around half of the level. And I didn't think that learning the first half of Bloodlust would be that hard, because I thought it would just be like Bloodbath. But I was very wrong. It is not like Bloodbath. Some parts are, but there's also a lot of parts that are changed. And it was really difficult for me to learn. And it took me around a week to learn the first half of Bloodlust. So, like, the Bloodbath portion of Bloodlust. And it was really difficult for me. And I finally learned it, and I started playing from zero. And I got consistent at like the first 20%, And then I would just die to Michigan, and then die to Michigan, and then die to Michigan, over and over and over. I didn't get past Michigan for 3 weeks. And it was to the point where every time that I would get to Michigan, I would just get really nervous and just died to the end of Michigan over and over, just because of how nervous I was. And then when I finally started to get past Michigan consistently, I would just die to cracks part at the straight fly at the end. There's an upside down gravity portal in the ship right there. And for some reason, I don't know why, it was just really hard for me when I first started playing. And I would either hold too long and just hit the spikes on the bottom of the screen, or I just wouldn't click and hit the spikes on the top of the screen. And I just, for some reason, I couldn't do that part, even though it's so open. But I couldn't get that part down no matter what. And so I spent like a couple hours just practicing cracks part over and over and trying to build consistency for that part, which ended up working, and I passed cracks part, and then I died to the swing. The swing for me is just really hard because it's not my skill set. It's not in my skill set. And so anytime that I would get to the swing, I would just die. And anytime that I passed the swing, it just felt completely random whether I would pass it or not, because I just couldn't do it. I don't know why. But I would pass the swing like once every 15 attempts or so. And then I would just die to Etzer, because there's a straight fly at the end of Etzer's part where there's like 3 gravity portals there. And for some reason, it was really hard for me to straight fly through the gravity portals. And I just kept dying there from 0. And at this point, I'm around a month and a couple weeks, a month or 2 weeks into playing Bloodlust. And I finally got to the extension. And the first 3 attempts that I had at the extension, all 3 of them, I died at 76%, which is just like a little micro click that you have to do in an upside down gravity portal. And I died there 3 times, even though I know what I'm doing at that part. And it made me mad because I never die there when I'm practicing. But from 0, I die there 3 times. The first 3 times I get to the extension. And it was hard for me. It was hard for me to keep playing. But I kept grinding the extension in practice just so I can get good at it, like really consistent at it. And I got there from 0 again, and I got all the way to like the little moving platforms in like the corridor at 80, which is everybody's favorite part of Bloodlust, including me. And I died because I got really nervous, and I died by like a frame at 82. And which gave me more motivation to actually keep playing the level. Because if I can get that far once, it means that I can get there again. And I kept playing, and I got another death at 81 that same day, which meant that getting 82 wasn't a fluke. It meant that I was actually improving at the level, which made me happy. And I went to bed, and then the next day I got up and I was playing, and I was in a call with my friends, and I kept joking around saying, "This is the attempt, I beat it. This is the attempt, I beat it. This is the attempt, I beat it." And they were watching one of the attempts that I did, and I ended up beating my record of 82, but I died to 86, and I started freaking out because I was extremely nervous because at the beginning of the attempt I said that this is the attempt, I beat it, and then I passed my record, and just to die to a freaking triple spike, which isn't even that hard. And I kept playing after that the next day, and the next day I ended up getting 8 extension attempts in one day, and I died at 81. I died at 79. I died at 76 3 more times. I died to a bug at the beginning of the extension. And then the other 2, I died to the wave. The first wave of the extension. And that gave me even more motivation just to keep playing, because I got to the extension 8 times in a singular day, which is getting when you get to the extension, it's harder than beating the level bloodbath. So getting to the extension 8 times in one day pretty much means that I beat bloodbath 8 times in one day. And that means that I was like actually getting good at the game. So I went to bed expecting the next day to go even better than the previous day was when I got 8 extension attempts. But the next day I warmed up and I started playing from zero, and like an hour or so into me playing, I got a new best of 93, which is right at the end of the extension before TMN's part. And I died to that straight fly because I messed up my click pattern because I was nervous. One of the many ways that you can mess up when you're nervous. But that was the only extension attempt I got that day, which made me a little frustrated because I went from getting 8 extension attempts one day to only getting 3 extension attempts the next day, which made me really upset. So I played for a while that day. I didn't get anywhere. And then the next day I was playing and I did the same thing. Around an hour in, I got to the extension, but I got past 93%, and then I died to a UFO click at 96. And I didn't even feel like I messed up my click pattern. I'm still not sure how I died there, but I died at 96. And it wasn't a good time because I really thought that I was going to beat it that attempt because I got so consistent at TMN's part that I would never die there when I was practicing the level. And so when I got to TMN's part, I thought I was going to beat it. But I died at 96. And the day after that, I thought I was going to actually beat it, but I didn't even get an extension attempt that day. Which made me really mad because I went from getting 8 extension attempts in one day a couple days prior to not getting any. And so I went to bed that night frustrated that I didn't get to the extension at all. And I was determined to get to the extension the next day. So when I woke up the next morning, the first thing I did was get on my computer and start practicing the extension and then just practicing every part individually throughout the entire level. And I felt really good that day. But I felt really good every day when I was practicing. So it felt like the same compared to every other day that I was playing Bloodlust. But I started playing from zero, and I just kept playing from zero for the next 2 hours. And I still didn't get an extension attempt. And my friends were watching. And I died at 60. Like right before the extension. And I told them just to not watch unless they hear me get to the extension. And a couple attempts later, I want to say like 4 attempts later, because I died to the beginning, like the first 3%, like 4 times. But a couple attempts later, I ended up beating it. And it made me extremely happy to beat it because I was having a really rough time that day. So when I beat it, I was really happy. And it came out of nowhere because I didn't even get an extension attempt prior to that. And it was so random because I died at 60 and then a couple attempts later I beat it. And which it was a really good time for me because Bloodlust took me a couple days less than 2 months to beat, which is the second longest span of time I have ever taken on an extreme demon. First being falling up. But I was really excited when I beat it. And that also meant that I had a new hardest that was within the top 300 hardest levels in the game. But yeah, that's how I beat Bloodlust. So, without waiting anymore, here's my completion.
Oh. How much gold do you have? How much gold do you have?
I have 0 gold, actually.
Oh. We need to go to mid. We need to go to mid. How many blocks do you have?
Just only join in when I get to the extension, bro, because otherwise you're just wasting your time.
Alright.
We need to go to mid, Zoltan. Come on. What do you mean the bar right? We need to go to mid right now. We need blocks. I can't make it. You don't have blocks. Are you kidding?
Bro, to be fair, I thought you had enough.
I did it! I did it! What? Oh my god!
You did it! You actually did it! Yeah!
No way! No way! I did it! Oh my god!
Yeah!
Oh my god! What? No way! No!
Hey, GG!
No way! Oh my god! Oh my god!
I was joking at first. I thought you were in a star pop. Oh my soul.
Oh my god! Bloodlust was really a struggle for me, but the struggle was worth it because it's a big step in my career, especially on my journey to